Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to talk about how we can use completing the square to write the equations of an ellipse and a hyperbola. So in example number 1 it says complete the square to write the equation of the ellipse below and then graph. So we're going to follow the steps here to the right. So first things first, we're going to group all of the x's and all of the y's and we're going to move the constant over. So I'm going to put my x's here in red, so 4x squared plus 32x. Then we're going to group the y's, which I'll put here in blue. So we have 9y squared minus 36y, and we're going to move the constant over. So we're going to make this a negative 64 if we move it to both sides. Next step is that we have to factor out any leading coefficient that does not equal 1. We cannot complete the square with this 4 and this 9 in front. So we're going to divide out a GCF of 4. We're not going to take out the x. I know there's a GCF of 4x, but we're just going to factor out the leading coefficient. So we have x squared plus 8x. Then we're going to factor out the GCF here of 9. Again, we're not taking out 9y, just the leading coefficient. So we have y squared minus 4y. And then we're going to bring down our equals and our negative 64. So now, just like the circles, we're going to complete the square. We're going to take half of b and square it. So I'll use the red for the red. So I have the b value is 8. 8 divided by 2 squared. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Now we'll do the b value for the blue, for the y's. The b value here is negative 4. So we'll take negative 4, divide it by 2, and square it. That gives me negative 2 squared, which gives me 4. So these are the numbers that we're going to add to both sides of the equation. So we have 4x squared plus 8x, and then we're going to add the 16. Then we're going to take the 9 and y squared minus 4y, and we're going to add the 4. Now, what makes this a little different than the circle is that you actually have to add the multiplication or product of 4 times 16 and 9 times 4 to this side. Because of this 4 in front, it's not safe to say we're just adding the 16. So you're going to take 4 times 16 and put that here. That's 64, right? Then you're going to take the 9 times 4 and put that here. That's 36. And then that makes it okay, right? So I added 16 and 4, but I'm really adding 64 and 36 on the other side. And remember, with completing the square, we have to write this as the product of two binomials, or one binomial squared. And we know that we can get this from the half value. So if I were to factor this trinomial, I would get x plus 4 squared. And then same thing with the y's. If I were to factor this trinomial with am, I would get negative 2 and negative 2. So these are the values that help us. So this would be y minus 2 squared. And then we can simply add everything on this side. 64s will cancel and we'll get 36. Okay, so the next step here is that we have to get the equation to equal 1, because whether it's an ellipse or a hyperbola, this side always has to equal 1. So the way we can do that is we're going to take the original equation and we're going to divide it by the constant. So we're going to divide this each piece, by the 36. Because why? 36 divided by 36 gives us 1, and that's what we want. So if we finalize this equation now, we can simply simplify 4 and 36. That will simplify to 1 over 9. So we have x plus 4 squared over 9. Here we can divide the 9 and the 36. That'll give us 4, but the bigger number's on the bottom, so 4 goes on the bottom. And 36 divided by 36 gives us 1. So we're done. Here's my equation of an ellipse. How do I know it's an ellipse? Because there's a plus sign and it's equal to 1. All right, what I'd actually like you guys to do now for homework is to take this ellipse and graph it. Try to remember the A's and the B's, where do things go, and graph this, and we'll go over that in class tomorrow. All right, let's move on to the next page. All right, now same situation, except now I want to graph the equation, complete the square to write the equation of a hyperbola. So I'm going to group the x's first. So I have a 4x squared and a negative 48x. And now I'm going to group the y's. But what you're going to notice is that my y is now negative. So we're just going to bring down a negative 9y squared and a plus 72y. And we're going to bring the constant over. So negative 144. So we're going to do the same thing. Factor out any leading coefficients that are not 1. So we're going to take out a 4, and we're left with x squared minus 12x. And now in this situation, we're going to take out a negative. Why? Because there's a negative. So we're going to take out a negative 9, and we'll be left with y squared minus 8y equals our negative 144. Same thing as before, we're going to complete the square. So the b value is negative 12 divided by 2 squared. So that's negative 6 squared is 36. And then the other side now, we're going to take the negative 8 divided by 2 and square it. So negative 4 squared is 16. So we're going to add those to the respective x values and y values. So here we're going to add 36. And here for the y's, we're going to add 16. And then on the other side, we're going to remember to multiply them. So 4 times 36, that actually gives you 144. And then again, 9, but this time negative. So negative 9 times 16, that also gives you 144, but this time it's negative. So now we're going to complete the square. So remember the half value goes here. So x minus 6 squared. And here, the half value of negative 8 goes here, so y minus 4 squared. And then we're just going to add the side over here, so the 144's cancel, and then we're left with 144. And remember, when we are creating the equation, we must have the equation be equal to 1. So we're going to take each of the parts of the equation, and we're going to divide it by 144. And we're going to simplify to finalize the equation. Okay, so now when we do this, we're going to do 4 divided by 144, and that should give you 36. So we have x minus 6 squared over 36 minus, and then 9 divided by 144, that'll give you 16. So we've got y minus 4 squared over 16 equals 1. And this is my equation of my ellipse. Notice I have a minus sign and that equals 1. So take a minute, and for homework, I'd like to see if you could graph this hyperbola. And that's it. If you have any questions, now's a good time to jot them down. Otherwise, we'll see you in class tomorrow. Have a good night.